All right, let's dive in. We're tackling something pretty interesting today.
Yeah, definitely.
It's all about Bitcoin. This idea that owning just one single Bitcoin
Right.
could actually be more valuable
Interesting.
than being a millionaire.
Wow.
It's a bold statement.
It is.
We're looking at this article from Bitcoin Magazine published just a couple of days ago,
Okay.
January 2nd, 2025.
Wow. So fresh.
It's called Owning One Bitcoin is Better Than Being a Millionaire.
Catchy title.
So is this all hype?
Whoa.
Or is there something more to this?
Yeah, I think there's definitely something to unpack here.
Okay.
The author Vivek Scan, he starts by talking about his own journey with Bitcoin.
Okay.
He got in back in 2016
Gotcha.
when the prices were like $400 to $500.
Oh.
And from there, he's arguing that reaching what's called whole coiner status.
A whole coiner.
Yeah, owning one whole Bitcoin
Okay.
is becoming more and more difficult.
And that's because the price has just gone up so much.
Yeah, it's skyrocketing.
Like right now we're looking at around $100,000?
About that, yeah.
Which is crazy to think about.
It's a lot.
And he compared that to the average savings
Yeah.
of someone under 35 in the U.S.,
Right.
which is only about $20,540.
Huge difference.
Yeah, so for a lot of people, owning a whole Bitcoin, it just seems,
It feels out of reach.
yeah, it's a distant dream.
Definitely.
So that difference in price, I mean, it really highlights
Yeah.
how exclusive it's becoming
It does, yeah.
to own a whole Bitcoin.
Absolutely. Sin compares it to, it's almost like joining a really exclusive club
Oh, interesting.
with a huge entry fee.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Speaking of these exclusive clubs,
Right.
the author makes this really fascinating comparison
Okay.
between these whole coiners
Yeah.
and millionaires.
All right. So what he points out is there's only about 1 million.
Okay.
Bitcoin addresses that.
Yeah.
That hold more than one Bitcoin.
Okay.
Now let's assume that each address is just one person.
Okay.
That's still a tiny percentage of the global population.
Wow.
We're talking like 0.0125%.
That is tiny.
It is.
Wow.
Now compare that to
Yeah.
the number of millionaires out there
Okay.
worldwide.
Yeah.
Which is about 58 million.
So many more.
Yeah, almost 60 times.
Wow. That's mind-blowing.
It is.
So owning a whole Bitcoin puts you in this much, much smaller, more exclusive group
Yeah.
than just being a millionaire.
That's his argument, yeah. And a core reason for that, he says,
Right.
is this fundamental difference between
Okay.
Bitcoin and, say, like the U.S. dollar.
He calls it fiat currency.
Yes, fiat currency.
Yeah.
And so his argument is because governments can print an unlimited amount of fiat currency,
Okay.
it makes the millionaire status like less exclusive.
Right, because the pool of money just keeps getting bigger.
Exactly.
Okay.
But Bitcoin, on the other hand,
Yeah.
it has that fixed supply, right?
Mm-hmm.
Capped at 21 million coins.
It's limited.
And that scarcity,
Yeah.
that's one of the key drivers of its value.
So it's kind of like owning a limited edition
It is.
collectible, but it's digital.
Yes.
And it can be used as money.
Great analogy.
So to really drive this point home,
Yeah.
he issues this pretty stark warning
He does.
to those who maybe haven't really embraced Bitcoin.
Right.
He writes, "If you're a millionaire and you don't own at least one Bitcoin yet, wake up. The race is on, and most millionaires are going to miss out."
Strong words.
Wow.
And to back that up,
Okay.
he includes a quote from another Bitcoin expert,
Right.
Tordemeester, who says, "These are the last months that 1 BTC is accessible to the upper middle class."
Wow. Now that
Yeah.
that really makes you think.
It-
What does that actually mean for someone who's like thinking about getting into Bitcoin?
Well, it adds this sense of urgency, wouldn't you say?
Definitely.
Yeah.
But beyond just that whole like get in while you can message.
Right.
What does this all mean for the average person?
It suggests that Bitcoin's impact on wealth distribution
Okay.
might be more significant than we realize.
Yeah, it's like we could be looking at this future where owning even a fraction of a Bitcoin is like a huge sign of wealth, a major sign of wealth.
Yeah, it's a shift in how we traditionally view,
Yeah,
financial success, for sure.
certainly.
And it all comes back to that core difference between Bitcoin and fiat currency, right?
Mm-hmm.
With traditional money, governments, central banks, they have control over the supply.
Yeah.
They can print more whenever they think it's necessary.
Right, and we've seen how that can lead to, to inflation where the value of the currency goes down.
Exactly.
But with Bitcoin, you can't do that.
No.
That the supply is fixed.
Predetermined.
Yeah.
And it's governed by that underlying technology.
By the blockchain.
A blockchain,
Now,
yeah.
Bitcoin kind of offers this hedge against inflation
Mhm.
and the loss of purchasing power that can come with with traditional fiat currencies.
Yeah, that's one of the main arguments
Okay.
in favor of Bitcoin as a store of value.
Okay.
But the author's point, it goes beyond just inflation.
Okay.
He's suggesting that Bitcoin's fixed supply,
Right.
along with its growing adoption,
Mm-hmm.
it could like fundamentally change the wealth landscape.
Because as more and more people want a piece of that limited pie,
Yeah.
the value theoretically goes up.
Exactly.
And those who got in early, they benefit the most.
Yeah, like those early adopters, the ones who bought it when it was
Yeah.
just a few bucks a coin.
Right.
They're reaping the benefits now,
Wow.
while others are trying to catch up.
Yeah.
And the author seems to think that trend's just going to continue.
And he mentions these halving events.
Yes.
Which affect
It's fascinating.
the rate at which new Bitcoin are created.
It is.
So you explain that a little bit?
Yeah, so Bitcoin has this built-in mechanism
Okay.
where roughly every 4 years, the reward for miners
Okay.
who are verifying transactions
Gotcha.
on the network, it gets cut in half.
Oh, wow.
So that means
Okay.
the rate at which new Bitcoin are introduced into circulation,
Okay.
it slows down.
So it becomes harder and harder
Yeah.
to get new Bitcoin.
It reinforces that scarcity
Right.
that the author keeps talking about.
And that's where his call to action is.
Right.
He's saying that window
Yeah.
to acquire
Yeah.
a whole Bitcoin or even just like a good chunk of one.
Yeah. It's closing.
It's closing.
He thinks,
Do you think that's realistic?
well, it's a prediction.
Yeah.
And like any prediction, there's a lot of factors.
Sure.
But the underlying principle,
Okay.
it makes sense.
Okay.
As demand for Bitcoin goes up
Yeah.
and the supply stays the same,
Mm-hmm.
it's logical to think that getting it
Right.
is going to get harder.
So for someone who's just hearing about this now,
Okay.
are they already too late?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
The price of a single Bitcoin is high.
Yeah.
But remember, you can divide it
Okay.
up to 8 decimal places.
Oh, wow.
So you can own a tiny, tiny fraction.
Okay.
It's called a Satoshi.
A Satoshi.
Yeah.
So even if I can't buy a whole Bitcoin,
Right.
I can still participate.
Exactly. And that's an important point.
Okay.
The author focuses on these whole coiners,
Yeah.
but there's a whole spectrum
Gotcha.
of ownership.
Oh,
And even just a small amount can give you exposure to that growth.
that's good to know.
Yeah.
But still, this idea that Bitcoin could like reshape
Yeah.
wealth distribution,
It's a big concept.
it's a big concept, and it
Yeah.
raises some questions
Right.
about how we value money
Mhm.
and what it means to be wealthy
Yeah.
in a world where these digital assets are
Yeah.
becoming so important.
Exactly. And the author touches on this idea of Bitcoin
Okay.
challenging those
Yeah.
traditional financial systems.
Yeah, can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
traditional systems, they're centralized.
Okay.
They rely on these institutions,
Like banks.
banks, governments,
Yeah.
to control and manage money.
Right.
Bitcoin, on the other hand,
Okay.
it's decentralized.
Okay.
It runs on a global network
Hmm.
of computers
Yeah.
without needing those intermediaries.
So it's like a peer-to-peer
It is.
system for money.
Yeah, it's a totally different way of thinking about
Yeah.
finance than we're used to.
And it sounds like the author thinks that this decentralized nature
Mhm.
is a big part of its appeal.
He does, yeah.
And maybe even its value.
Yeah, he argues that Bitcoin offers this level of financial freedom
Okay.
and autonomy
Okay.
that you just don't get with traditional systems.
Right.
It lets individuals,
Yeah.
control their own money
Hmm.
without having to rely on third parties.
It's like taking back control
It is, yeah.
of your own finances.
Yeah, and that's why he believes that owning Bitcoin,
Mhm.
even just a fraction,
Okay.
is a powerful statement.
Interesting.
It's like a vote
Okay.
for a more open,
Okay.
transparent, and fair financial system.
It's really interesting to think about
Yeah,
how this could change our relationship with money.
it is.
I mean, we often think of wealth as these traditional assets.
Yeah,
But Bitcoin offers something totally different.
it does. And whether or not Bitcoin ultimately achieves,
Yeah.
mainstream adoption,
Right.
and has that impact the author talks about,
Yeah.
it's undeniable that it's sparked a conversation.
It has.
And it's made us rethink some of our most basic assumptions
Mm.
about finance.
Okay, so if we take a step back here and we look at everything we've been talking about,
Mm.
what are the key things you think people should take away from this?
Well, I think, one of the biggest things the author keeps hammering home is that scarcity of Bitcoin.
Yeah.
With that fixed supply of 21 million coins,
Right.
it's just fundamentally different
Yeah.
from traditional currencies that can be, printed forever.
Right, and that scarcity, it really seems to be what's driving its value.
Yeah, Absolutely.
We talked about how owning a whole Bitcoin, it's becoming more and more exclusive.
It is.
Even compared to being a millionaire.
Definitely.
And then there's that question
Right.
that we keep kind of circling back to. Is that window of opportunity closing?
Yeah, I mean, the author definitely thinks so.
Yeah.
And while nobody can, predict the future,
Right.
the trends we see, they kind of back up what he's saying.
Okay, so even if someone can't afford a whole Bitcoin right now,
Mm-hmm.
it might still be worth it
Right.
to get a fraction of one.
Absolutely.
And we were talking about
Bitcoin is divisible up to 8 decimal places.
Wow.
So you can own, a very small piece of that.
Okay, so don't let that whole coiner thing scare you away
Yeah, exactly.
from at least looking into Bitcoin.
Yeah, even a small amount
Yeah.
can give you that exposure to its potential growth.
Right.
And let you kind of participate in this evolving financial world.
And I think it's important to remember too that this is just a starting point.
Oh, for sure.
This author's view, it's just one perspective.
One of many.
Yeah, on this whole conversation about Bitcoin and its role in the future of finance.
Yeah, I mean, it's so important to do your own research, to explore all those different viewpoints,
Right.
and ultimately figure out for yourself whether or not Bitcoin aligns with your goals
Right.
and your values.
Because it's a complex topic.
It is.
It's a fascinating topic.
Yeah, this deep dive, it's really highlighted that potential for Bitcoin to reshape how wealth is distributed, to challenge those traditional financial systems.
Right, and to just change how we think about money.
Exactly. How we think about value.
And as with anything new, anything emerging, there are always risks and uncertainties.
Yep.
But one thing is for sure.
What's that?
Bitcoin has started this global conversation.
It really has.
That's challenging these old assumptions.
Mm-hmm.
And it's making us rethink.
What's possible with finance in this digital age.
It is.
So to all of you listening out there, we encourage you to keep exploring, stay curious, and keep learning about this whole world of Bitcoin and cryptocurrency.
Absolutely.
Hopefully this deep dive has given you some food for thought.
Yeah, some insights.
But it really is just the beginning of your journey.
Keep learning.
So until next time,
happy
diving.